Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Indie Reads Aloud. We are getting closer and closer to wrapping up our 100th episode, and I'm really excited to bring Brandy D. Pearson back again. He's going to read for us again. I'm so excited you're back. Thank you very
That's my
much.
cat.
Hello, kitty.
Here, you're on camera. Here, come on. Say
There,
hello. Here,
there.
say
Now we say
hello.
hello.
Lean in, say
That's
hello.
better.
Now go there. All righty.
For those of you who have not met Randy yet, if you missed the last episode that we had together, Randy has been displaying his creativity for as long as he can remember. Starting at an early age drawing comic strips and cartoon books, he quickly realized he enjoyed writing stories more than he did sketching. I completely relate to this. The word part is so much easier than the drawing part.
My dad was a commercial artist and a painter, did some beautiful stuff. And me, my stick figures just don't even look like things. So it's like I realized very quickly that art is not my thing. Writing is
Yeah.
my thing. So I'm glad
Yeah,
I figured
yeah.
that out pretty early.
I need a ruler to draw a straight line, and even then, it's not straight. It always goes up or down.
Oh yes.
Yeah. So Randy discovered his other childhood passion, the Atari computer. You remember those days long ago. And everything came together for him at that point. He spent so many late nights typing stories, and he won several writing contests in the process. His writing kicked into high gear in 2007 when he became a member of Writing at the Ledges. This Grand Ledge, Michigan based writing group helped him to turn his interesting ideas into well crafted works of fiction. There's a really, really cool thing about working with a writing community, wouldn't you say? That it just serves the process like nothing
Yeah.
else.
Yeah, for sure. Especially when I first started all these stories all those years ago, I would just write them for myself. I'd give them to a friend or two, and they go, "Oh, this is good," and that's all I'd ever hear. And then getting in front of a bunch of like-minded people and sharing and learning how to critique and be critiqued. I
Right.
mean, both of those things are challenging. I mean, learning like we have poets and we have playwrights and we have just novelists, and so as a short story person at that time, learning from a novelist or helping to critique a poem. I don't know how to write a poem. I have no clue, but you just hear things and go, oh, this doesn't quite seem right to me or whatever. And it's like, oh, then, you learn, and
Yeah,
having
yeah.
someone read your and critique your stuff, like, oh, this doesn't make sense to me. Like, oh, okay, it's helpful.
It's
It really
so
does.
neat to work within. So much of what we do is very isolating,
Mm-hmm.
and we have to sit down. It's just us and the page and our slightly schizophrenic brains talking as we type. So it's I think it's really great to have a writing community that you can learn from and get different perspectives. And again, like you say, friends and family will say that's nice, but even though it's positive feedback, you don't really learn a lot from that's nice.
Yeah, that's nice. Is kind of like, oh, I didn't cue you with a
Yeah, just pat
story.
you on your head and there you go. Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely. Randy's writing has been featured in several publications, and this is very and I didn't realize how much you contributed to until I read your bio. So he's been published in the Washington Square Review, Pets Across America, Small Towns, A Map in Words, Seasons of Life, Voices from the Ledges, Promptly Speaking, Fiction 440 Volume 1, and Retrocade Magazine. That's an amazing resume. I'm super impressed that you contributed to that many publications.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm shocked people like my stuff enough to actually want to publish it.
Isn't that always the way? Like we're the
Yeah,
last ones to realize that what we write is worthy, right?
yeah, for sure.
Imposter syndrome runs deep in the heart of the American author.
Yeah, absolutely.
So today you're going to read from your short story collection, which is entitled "Tell Me a Story."
Yeah.
Um, there's the cover. Um, so tell me a little bit about the overall theme of this collection.
Right. So my wife has always been asking me to tell her a story ever since I met her. So
Mm,
I thought, well, what a better way to do this than to put basically this is 30 years of my writing here. The earliest story dates back to 1986 in this thing.
Wow.
I published it in 2016. So I put these together, and then I decided I basically wrote this to her. So the beginning of each chapter has a little page or two, kind of like a mini romantic day in the life kind of a thing that weaves you into
Okay.
the next story. And then tell me a story, and then it goes into whatever random short story I have here. So that's
Nice.
kind of the interconnecting storyline, because when I was publishing this, my publisher said, well, you're not famous enough to just put out a short story collection. It's got to have
Oh,
some sort of a hook.
everybody's famous enough to write a short story collection.
And like, no,
I
no
I
one's going
have
to
a
care.
I have an invisible duck who's done it twice
Right? Yes, I love those. Those are fantastic.
now. Everybody can write short stories.
Yeah, but this worked though. I figured, okay, so now this is basically a love letter to my wife and a whole bunch of fun stories for people to read too. So
That's so sweet. That
yeah.
how wonderful. I'm really excited. You're going to read two different pieces for us today, right?
Yes, indeed. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm going to read one longer piece that is part of my what I'm calling my Psychic Phil Chronicles. This is a character named Philip Hamill, who is what I would call a reluctant psychic. He gets these flashes that hit him, and he knows that if he doesn't try to do something, that what he sees will happen. So he oftentimes he goes through this trouble, and people don't believe him because people don't believe this kind of stuff. So
Right.
you know um so I have a total of 3 short stories in this collection together at the end of the book. And eventually I'm going to start writing a series of novels based on this character because my wife loves this character. So, you know,
Well, and it is her love letter, so
exactly.
you kind of have to do what she asks you to do.
Yeah. Yeah. And then once that one's done, I have one quick silly short story that I wrote on this one of my fiction 440 pieces that when I read it, I mean, this may be a brag, I don't know, but when I read it, there's a certain point where people laughed for so long that I actually decided I was going to I'm just going to stop reading here. I mean, I can't get any better than this. Just stop. But there's still half the story left. So I continued on, but I had to wait for the laughter to die down. Like that really did my heart well.
Okay,
So
yes, yeah, that's a nice little ego boost when you get that response from an audience you're reading to.
yes, indeed.
That's spectacular. Well, I am looking forward to hearing these short stories. When you are ready, please take the microphone and read aloud.
Okay. So I'm going to start at the beginning of chapter 31, which will give the little bit of the connecting storyline here. So, chapter 31. Christmas Day arrives and we open our presents. Sweaters and space heaters, vacuum cleaners and CDs. We get what we wanted and needed. She thinks we're done, but I have one final gift for her. Handing her a box wrapped with purple and silver paper, I can barely contain my joy. One more thing, sweetie. Giving me a momentary scowl, she says, you've already given me plenty. I didn't want anything other than the vacuum cleaner. I know, but this is exactly what you've been wanting as well, and it didn't cost us any money. My wife shakes the box back and forth, then side to side. She loves guessing at the contents of her presents, and to my annoyance, she's usually quite good at it. It's paper and fairly light. Is it a book? Kinda, I think. But I just reply, open it, love of my life. When she rips the paper and pulls the box, her eyes light up. Is this what I think it is? Yep. She jumps up and gives me the biggest smooch. Psychic Phil, I love your Psychic Phil stories. I know. This collection has all 3 of his stories, including a never before seen adventure for Philip Hamill. You'll get to learn about his past and meet some family, all wrapped around a mystery. A squeal escapes as she hugs me again. Will you read these to me? Of course. It's part of the present. So this is called The Psychic Buddy. Hello, friend, Philip droned into the telephone. You've reached the Psychic Buddies Network. What may I see for you today? Laughter exploded from the other end of the line, which made Phil's heart drop. Oh, great, another one, he thought. Gee, the voice said, oozing sarcasm. If you really were psychic, you'd know what I wanted, huh, smart guy? Philip wanted to hang up, but one realization always made him feel better. After all, this moron is paying $4.99 a minute to insult me. Who's the smart guy now? It only works sometimes. It only works that way sometimes, sir. There's no guarantee with a gift like this. I can't just turn it on like a faucet. Now, if you want to tell me the purpose of your call, I'll be happy to. It felt like a tidal wave hit Phil directly in the brain. The psychic energy that he himself did not have power to invoke could most certainly power itself up on its own and clobber him with a tremendous current. He had felt this torrent before, of course, many times over the years. However, this one felt larger than life. It felt like death. Death waited around the corner for someone, but not this bozo on the phone. He wanted, again, to hang up on the caller so he could help the one who really needed him. However, his job had to come first, and he needed to appease this fellow. Over his months as a psychic buddy, he learned that when he felt nothing for a caller, he could usually fudge his way through. Normally, he needed to ask a few questions to show the caller to allow the caller to guide him subconsciously, but he had no time to play the usual games. Sir, I'm going to save you some time and money on this call and make it quick. Tell her you love her. Tell her you're sorry and you realize she's truly the one for you. Trust me, it'll work. Phil expected laughter, but after a small pause, the man said, Whoa, okay, I will. Thanks, psychic dude. Phil grinned. Anytime. Call again, but next time don't waste so much time and money being skeptical. He then hung up and quickly started to dial. He had no idea how he knew the number, but when it came to his gift, he knew well enough not to question it. Brandon Bilson stood in the upstairs bedroom of his new house, gazing out the window at his large backyard. His focus was so intense that when his wife came up from behind and put her arms around his chest, he jumped. Amy, he exclaimed, I didn't hear you come up. She smiled and rested her chin upon his shoulder. Sorry, Bran, what are you looking at out there? Oh, he replied, I'm still marveling at this place. We've been here a couple months now, but I'm still so tickled by it all. We actually have a huge fenced-in yard. Sure beats the apartment, huh, Aim? Yes, it does. But now that spring is here, we really need a mower. He turned inside the circle of her arms to face her, laid his hands on her shoulders, and delicately kissed her. Now, Aim, don't be taking the magic out of this yet. It'll grow mundane soon enough, my dear. They stayed in their embrace for a moment before Brannon turned back to the window. Looking beyond the edge of their property, he noticed someone standing in the middle of the adjacent restaurant parking lot. The man, clad in a beige jacket and blue jeans, appeared to be looking up at them. After a few seconds, the stranger turned as a dog trotted past him in a wide arc. From this distance, the guy appeared to be a few inches tall. I wonder if he can see us up here, Bran wondered idly. Amy laughed. I highly doubt it. This window is what, 3 by 5? But look, honey, he's just standing there staring up at us. Oh, Bran, he can't even see his face from here, especially at this time of evening. Even in broad daylight, I doubt he'd see much more than a vague shadow. He's probably looking at the stars. I've seen a few people out there walking their dogs. And besides, the light from our window is most likely obscuring us. As the stranger led the dog out of the lot, Brandon turned again to face his wife. It's the light that makes it so he can see us, Aim. Brandon stared at her for a long moment and then smiled devilishly. I think I can solve this little dilemma. I'm going out there. You stand right here and put on that sexy black negligee, the one with a, yeah, I know which one. Even though she joined in with her own version of a seductive grin, she could not hide the apprehension in her blue eyes. What if someone else sees? You'll know it's me. I'll have on my red jacket. Oh, but Brandon, she protested. It's late. Besides, we don't know the neighborhood yet. It seems safe enough, but how do we know for sure? He smiled a most confident grin. I'm a manly man, remember? At least that's what you tell everybody. I'll be fine. Besides, I really want to see you in that negligee. Any excuse is a good one. After tossing her a wink, he turned and vacated the bedroom, pausing to yell, and try both ways with the lights on and off, okay? This way we'll know for sure what people can see out there. After she removed her clothes, she let the arousal overcome her trepidation. After all, I'll be flashing the man I love, she thought as a sly smile crept upon her pretty face. I suppose this isn't too weird. At least the man with the dog seems to be gone. She found the nightgown and quickly donned it. Being skin tight, it accentuated her curves nicely, making her feel extremely desirable. Small wonder why Brandon liked this outfit so much. She heard the outside door click shut. Knowing he would soon be in position within a couple of minutes, she began to fantasize. She planned to give him the show of his life. Then the phone rang. Oh, great, she yelled. What lovely timing. This had better not be Mom. She picked up the receiver and gave her greeting. Hi, this is Philip Hamill. I'm with the Psychic Buddies Network. Hey, look, she interrupted. Now's not the time. I'm not interested. Goodbye. She started to pull the receiver away from her ear when he screamed, "Wait! Your husband's life's in danger. Don't hang up." This stopped her in her tracks. "What the hell are you talking about? Who is this?" "Look," Phil said, trying to calm himself enough to avoid sounding like a crackpot. "I'm a psychic, and I had a vision of your husband, Brandon, I think. He will be killed unless you act now. Don't let Brandon go into that parking lot." Although Phil's words concerned her, she found herself reacting with anger. "You got my husband's name wrong, idiot. Like, I don't know who you are, but this is one sick joke. I'm going to call the cops, you bastard." He began to say, "Look, I realize this sounds crazy," but she slammed down the handset before he could tell her any more. Phil wished he could jump in his car and drive to the scene to stop this terrible vision from becoming reality. The problem was his psychic powers worked in unpredictable ways. Somehow he knew the phone number, but had no idea where they lived. Unfortunately, he realized he probably had done all he could. Though Phil could call her back, he doubted she would answer. He had just hoped this warning would be enough to forestall the situation. Amy slammed down the phone with enough force to make it bounce slightly. "Great. We moved into a neighborhood with wackos in it." She went to the window to see if Brandon had made it to his position yet. Though she certainly lost the mood, she did not want to ruin his enjoyment. The best thing, she decided, would be to put on the show and tell him about it afterwards. Still, the call ate at the back of her mind. Don't let Brandon go into that parking lot. It troubled her that she knew Brandon's name, or close anyway. But what could she do? If she yelled for him, he would not hear it, and his cell phone rested on the end table next to the bed. At that moment, she saw Brandon walk around the side of the building and into the parking lot. He waved up at her and she returned the gesture. She tried to force a smile, but then realized he could not see her face anyway. His head from this distance resembled a tiny peach-colored ball with dark hair. If he had not been wearing the red jacket, she would not have recognized him. Amy began her striptease, moving seductively in front of the window. After coyly pulling at her right strap, she allowed it to drop off her shoulder. After a couple of minutes of her dance routine, she went over and turned off the bedroom light. Assuming no one would be able to see anything, she mustered enough confidence to drop the other shoulder strap, allowing her negligee to crumple to the floor. She got as close to the window as she could, striving to witness any sign of acknowledgement. At that moment, she spotted another man out on the blacktop near Brandon, so she quickly pulled up her nightgown. It looked to be the same man from earlier, or at least he wore a similar beige jacket. However, even from this distance, she could see the baseball bat in his hand. It glistened in the ambient lighting of the parking lot. He slowly crept up behind Brandon, bat poised above his head. Amy belted out a scream that Brandon could not hear. Philip stood with the phone still in his trembling hand, sweat beading on his brow. The image in his brain still haunted him, the man beaten to death with a baseball bat in a lonely parking lot. When he felt another flash hit him, he dropped the receiver. It loudly clunked upon the floor. The noise alerted several of his coworkers, who stared at him as if he had a screw loose. His supervisor, a nasty man with absolutely no psychic abilities or scruples, rapidly approached him with an angry scowl spread across his pudgy face. At that moment, Phil cared nothing about his job. He bent over and retrieved the receiver. That last brain flash gave him a new number to call, and he dialed frantically as his boss dropped a heavy hand on his shoulder. "Hey, Phil," he yelled, his mouth wrapped around an unlit cigar. "You know the rules. No personal calls on the job." Philip jerked his arm away from the cigar chewer as the phone began ringing. Staring up at his house, Brandon sighed. Amy was right. He could not see a darn thing from this distance. She's probably naked, he mused, and here I am standing in the cold. Suddenly, he heard a cell phone ring directly behind him. He spun around to see a man standing too close, an aluminum baseball bat raised over his head, ready to come crashing down. As the stranger paused, clearly startled by his ringing phone, Brandon shot his foot into the man's gut, sprinting away as quickly as his legs would carry him. He heard the bat clatter upon the ground as he continued to flee. He ran all the way to his front door, where his wife stood ready to greet him with a python-like hug. Philip's boss began to say, Yeah, I'm fired." Phil cut him off, his smile proud. "What do you think? I didn't see that coming. I am psychic, you know." That's that one. And then the other one, again, a little quick story. This one is chapter 23. "I sure do love Saturdays," I say to my wife as I randomly flip through channels. I look at her for a few moments with a hint of a smile on my face. Without returning my gaze, she says, "What?" "Nothing. I just like looking at you." She utters that psh noise she makes when she's disregarding or dismissing something. "Stop it," she said with no discernible emotion. "No," I reply, adding my own psh. Well, as I lean in and give her a smooch, this is getting us nowhere. After a momentary pause, I ask, "So, sweetie, what's for dinner?" Turning, she crinkles her brow at me. "I don't know. What are you making?" Before we met, my food life consisted entirely of cereal for breakfast, sandwiches for lunch, and prepackaged microwave meals for dinner. In a pinch, I can make pancakes. "Oh," I say as I bolt up and off the couch, "how about pancakes?" "All right. And bacon?" "Well, of course, bacon," I say, referring to the vegetable version of bacon we have in our freezer. No one in the history of the world has ever confused this stuff with actual bacon. However, as textured vegetable protein shaped to look like bacon goes, it's not bad. As I dug around in the cupboard for my perfect pancake maker, one of those as seen on TV items with two frying pans hooked together, she says, "Can you tell me a story while you're cooking?" "Sure. As a matter of fact, I have one perfect for a man who can't cook who's trying to impress his lady." So it's called Cooking Up Excitement. Craig shot Simon a toothy grin. "But dude, you don't cook. You live via the microwave and DeLuca's pizza." "Sure," Simon replied, "but this is the big deal. It's Sharon and my 1 year anniversary. So why not take her someplace, nice?" Simon glared at his friend with mock anger. "Oh, cooking isn't all that hard. I just hate doing it. Besides, I found a cookbook at Volunteers of America. I'm going to whip her up something she'll never forget." Shaking his head, Craig replied, "Okay, man, good luck." Though the book apparently assumed a higher level of culinary skill than Simon possessed, he did his best to emulate a couple of the more intriguing recipes. However, he had to buy some ingredients that seemed rather peculiar to him. "Well, the book clearly knows best," he muttered to himself. When the big day arrived, Simon could not contain his rapturous smile. Sharon opened the front door and right away said, "What smells so unusual?" Turning the corner of the kitchen with a champagne flute in each hand, Simon replied, "That would be dinner. It's something special. But first, here are the drinks." Oddly, the recipe called for these to be served in bottles, but I opted for a more traditional approach. Handing her a glass, he added, "To 1 year," and lightly clinked her flute with his. "Oh, Simon," she cooed as she lifted the glass and took a drink. She immediately spit it out, forming a small puddle on the hardwood floor. "Oh my God, what the hell is this?" Simon furrowed a brow in disappointment. "It's a cocktail, sweetheart. I followed the instructions to the letter. Well, mostly. Ugh, tastes like turpentine." "Oh, like you know what turpentine tastes like," Simon said as he took a swig. He also spit it out as rapidly as he could. "Geez, you're right. Wow, I'll go get us some wine. No more Molotov cocktails for us." Sharon's head shot around. "Molotov cocktails? Where did you get this recipe?" Walking into the kitchen, he grabbed the book from the table. "From this, it's a cookbook." Eyes wide, she yelled, "Yeah, the anarchist cookbook. This is how you make bombs and stuff, you moron." I did wonder why the recipe called for them to be served in a bottle with a rag sticking out the top. I thought the rag was like a homemade straw or something. With panic growing, Sharon leaned her body to look around at the kitchen. "So, what's cooking in the oven?" The ensuing explosion shook the entire neighborhood.
Okay, that's fun.
Thank you.
uh, where did Psychic Phil come from?
Boy, that's an actually really good question. I think, again, with my what if brain, I think I just had a thought about a psychic, the idea, probably some TV show or something, but the idea that, yeah, people just have these weird flashes of stuff. And I don't know, I think I just like the idea of someone who could see things, but not someone like, I didn't want it to be one of those people like a lot of the TV shows where they're mystery people, like they do this for a
Mhm.
living. They go out and
Yeah.
psych or one of
I'm a
those things.
detective. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
just wanted to be some dude who gets these flashes, and he realizes that if he doesn't do something about it, it's going to happen. And he just in good conscience can't let it happen, so he tries to stop it. And people think he's nuts. And I had a lot of fun with that. And I've written, like I said, there's two other ones in Tell Me a Story, and then
Mhm.
I have ideas for a whole lot of stuff. It's going to end up being a nice big long series, I think, too, as soon as I get around to writing them.
So do you see it? Do you see it as a collection of short stories series, or do you see developing Phil into the main character of a novella or a novel? How do you
Yeah,
see that going?
I'm going to go full on novels with these because I know that between him, I know I'll need extra characters. I'll probably come up with some sort of a police officer slash detective who works with him. You know,
Okay.
I've read a lot of the different, like the Milan Bolitar series,
Mhm.
and there's a couple others that just the idea of Randy Wayne White's another one. I can't think of the name of the character now. My wife loves this dude. But basically, having someone who is a detective who isn't a detective, like Milan Bolitar is a shoot, I'm sorry, I can't remember what he does for a living now, but he's not a he just gets drawn into things and he has enough of a skill set
Sure.
to be able to do it. So I like the idea of he's going to be the dude who these things happen and he feels compelled to help and then gets sucked into all these crazy adventures. So I'm going to have fun with this series for
Yeah,
sure.
I love the premise of him working at a psychic hotline. I just think that's a lot of fun to play with.
Thank you. Okay, that tells me where I got it from then because remember Dionne Warwick Psychic Friends?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I
That's
remember
exactly. I was
that.
watching one of those infomercials thinking Psychic Friends. That's why. So I can't call them Psychic. Actually, the first story was called Psychic Friends. Thought, no, I got sued. I'll call them Psychic Buddies.
Yeah,
So I
that
thought, how
works.
funny would it be if somebody were actually a psychic working at the Psychic Friends network? Because
Yeah.
you assume they're all just making this stuff up as they go
Well,
along.
sure. Yeah, they would have to be because they're
That
living
was
in the
where.
Caribbean somewhere. Yeah.
Thank you. You helped me get to that point. Yes, that's what it was. I thought
Okay.
the only person who actually is a psychic working at Psychic Friends.
Yeah, I like it. I like it. I'm looking forward to the novels coming out. I think that's going to be a lot of fun to play with.
Yeah, cool, cool. Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming back again. Like I said last time, you can come back as many times as you have books to share with us. I love your imagination, and I'm really pleased that you keep sharing it with me.
Thanks for having me. This is always so much fun.
Awesome. Have a great day.
You too. Thank you.